Hello, I'm making this channel in order to explain some things that I think can be of great benefit to a lot of people who are raw vegans or any peoples. This is just good information, and this is really to complement the video that I posted up about the radio interview that I had, and you know, basically just kind of following up and explaining. If you haven't heard it, you should go hear it. But essentially, I'm just explaining what I experienced through one of my experiences as a raw vegan, and how I was starting to move through it. And I'll tell you what I mean in a second. So, essentially, I did raw veganism for about a year, non-stop, 100%, and then the other two experiences, or three experiences, or four experiences were kind of off and on the horse. Now, I want to go through as fast as possible because I'll be making a few other videos, kind of get into more detail. But essentially, just to tell you a little bit slightly about myself, what drew me into raw veganism was not, I wouldn't say it was what drew me in was to understand human potential and where humans could go as far as energy, being just, you know, more evolved, essentially more powerful as human beings, and what it meant. You know, I wanted to figure out the definition for myself of what raw veganism was. And it wasn't for like the animals and stuff like that. Of course, I had definite empathy towards animals, and obviously, you know, I'm a human being, and I really don't think it's right to literally rape the planet of, you know, its beautiful life forms when it's not necessary. So, but at the same time, it's also not good to ignorantly rape yourself in the name of health, like to do things that are not necessarily good for you for animals. You know, I feel like you need to take care of yourself first, and then if you can do it, if it's workable, you know, because the thing is, if you're not totally healthy, then you can't really help the people around you. Can't help the people around you, but the people around you are going to keep doing the same shit, and you're not going to be a good example. Anyway, so now what it is that I did was essentially try to figure out how to shut off this hunger thing, and I'm going to dive right in it. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I hated being hungry. I hated you know, having cravings and pockets of energies, and then you know the majority of the time kind of being kind of weak. I hated that idea. I hated that feeling, and I am a junkie. I'm crazy about higher levels of energy and what the body and what the human being can push towards in achieving. And I wanted more of that good feeling. Obviously, it was a feeling that I never had before. But I wanted more of it, and I wanted to stay. I wanted it permanent. I'm all about permanence, like not just kind of doing this thing for how long? For eternity, for the rest of your life. You're going to be, what, raw vegan for 15 years, and you know, you're still eating like 6 times a day or 3 times a day, and you look skinny and you're weak. You didn't really achieve anything other than learn how to eat and live. And I mean just live, not in abundance. I'm talking about levels of abundance. Becoming superhuman is what I always dream that the human being can achieve. My foundation is art, and it's not hard for me to imagine, you know, a human being reaching higher levels of energy. And I wanted the same things that made me feel good as a raw vegan. I decided that I was going to take these things non-stop for 2 weeks. Before I did it, I was going to kill the bugs in my body, microorganisms, you know, candida, yeast, fungus, mold, worms, you know, just leechers, microorganisms that shouldn't be there from just, you know, being human and living on this earth. I wanted to knock out, I wanted to kill those things. And I spent time doing a separate protocol on that. Didn't take long, tried to do as much as possible. And the rest of them, I believe, died from what happened afterward, because my diet was composed of no fruits. You know, zero excess sugars. I did not want any of these microorganisms, these freeloaders, to benefit from what I'm eating at all. So I decided to cut off all sugars and decided to just put everything else in the body. The only sugars I was going to get is literally from the protein, right, or from the carbohydrates from the actual living plant, and not any excess carbohydrate or things from any other sources. Everything is living, everything is raw. Also, I was thinking about is that the soil is nothing compared to what it was millions of years ago. I don't compare the soil to 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I compared the soil to how it was when the dinosaurs were here. And why the dinosaurs were so massive is because he had so much oxygen, which means that he had a lot of vegetation, which means that the soil was very much enriched to let these type of plants thrive. And there's already evidence that humans existed in this dinosaur era. If you're one of those people who are just very linear in thinking and don't think outside the box, then please find the exit from this channel and go to another one that's pretty stiff and boring. Because, you know, the research that I found was that human beings that were us, not a different type of Anthropithecus or whatever type of title you want to put on it, or Cro-Magnon or anything like that. They were humans, and these humans dated 800 million years old. They dated 600 million years old. And they're old as shit. They're old as dinosaur shit. And so I compared to the humans, I compare myself in terms of vitality to the humans back then in relation to their environment and the nutrients. Now, if the soil is nothing it was millions of years ago, then how can I do that right now? That means my body still has a genetic capability, or genetically knows to enrich itself when the opportunity is present with high amounts of nutrients as existed on the planet. It keeps going. It doesn't stop. So I enrich my body with vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Obviously, carbohydrates coming from the plants, and the vitamins and minerals, the vitamins coming from things like chlorella, spirulina, and the minerals coming from humus, which means human, which is the same thing as human, and humus is the same word, which means up from the earth. So I did this while my body was constantly in a starvation state. Why? It's because those bugs were feeding off of the very little that I had, and they were asking for sugars, and my body was hungry, and so I just completely gave my body nutrients until the hunger shut off. The detox was nothing I can ever describe. I believe that I was detoxing various different things from my body, but essentially I feel like I was detoxing heavy bugs out my body, because they had nothing to eat and they died. If I'm starving, they're starving too. What happened is I learned a lot of things, and I'll post up those things that I've learned, but essentially what happened is I came out with more energy than I really don't think any raw vegan, or most raw vegans, don't experience this type of energy. This energy was absolute power. It was not a sense of greater well-being, greater mood, or even a little bit of strength. This was like I can punch a hole through the wall and not feel a thing. As an example, what shocked me is when I woke up that last day, where I basically was running out of supplies, and you know, it was still good. I mean, I realized that your body has to get to a certain point of nutrient absorption, and once it hits a certain peak, a certain level, then you don't have to eat as much, you don't have to take in as much nutrients, your body's holding on to it. Again, I'll explain why later on. But when I woke up that morning, I felt extremely light. I felt complete opposite of how I felt going through this process. And the detox was so concentrated at one point when I was going through this process that I was on the verge of passing out. Here I am, early morning, waking up, feeling like my hunger was completely diminished. I drank a little bit more, but it was completely diminished. I couldn't hear anything. It made me nervous. My weight was stable. I wasn't skinny or bony or anything like this. And I started moving my arm around. My arm felt really, really, really light, just as if there was no gravity present. It's like, there was no strain on my shoulder, my joint lifting on my arm. There's nothing there. I decided to move my arm, and my arm moved. There was no effort involved. It just simply moved. All back pains and body pains that I grew up with were completely gone. Standing, as I said in the radio interview, standing became the new sitting, where I just wanted to stand. I felt comfortable standing, and that's never happened before. I'm 6'4". I like to stand. I like to sit often because I just feel like my frame is very unstable and it pulls a lot of my muscles. But my muscles were so strong, and it was ridiculous. What happened? There's two things that happened. One thing was I got really nervous because I'm so used to having a relationship and constantly being in communication with my body. But most of the communication I realized was mostly about problems, pains, achingness, hunger, tiredness, fatigue, on and on and on and on and on, different things that I usually hear. And I know, and when I hear it, I try to do what I can for my body, so I can focus. But here I am, completely thinking outward. I'm not really thinking about my body, and I was worried because I'm thinking maybe my body is so tired and so exhausted, so depleted that there's, it made me nervous, the fact that I couldn't hear my body. And I'm like, this scared me because it's never happened before. My body wasn't sending signals, constant signals. It was just literally quiet, and I thought that quietness was numbness in a sense, So I ran over or I took my time. Actually, I didn't really run over. I was taking it easy, went over to the vegan corner store, got me vegan pasta, and I said, you know what, I don't know about you, but I'm like, I've been taking some really, really some third-party stuff that hasn't been approved by the FDA, even though I don't really care about the FDA. You just have these doubts and these things that you might be on the verge of death, and what if you do something silly where your heart stops, or you just pass out from just taking things you don't really know is fully about. So what happened is I basically ate this pasta, and my energy completely left. It completely just drained, and I thought to myself, now that's really strange, it's really weird, because this thing has sugar. Like, shouldn't sugar just kind of give me a boost of energy? So this led to a lot of research later. But anyway, what happened in that day is I felt so horrible from eating that piece, because I threw the rest of it away, that I continued with the diet that I had. Went to my friend's house, started telling them, because my energy came back after I flushed the stuff out. Went to my friend's house, and I'm like, yo, man, this energy that I have is crazy. Like, I don't want to sit down, I just want to stand. I feel so comfortable. And I started doing, I told him, I'm like, I can feel like I could do 50 push-ups, go to the ground, do like push-ups, and the push-ups were like, there's no strain. I don't feel my muscles literally getting tighter or straining, literally just like the muscles flexed in a direction and contracted, and it was pretty much it. But it wasn't like soreness that came afterward. And then I started doing one-arm push-ups. I hadn't touched the gym in a year. My family owns a gym, and I hadn't been there in a long time. I don't go anywhere else. I wasn't doing any type of exercises at home, calisthenics or anything of that sort. I wasn't doing anything related to any exercise for months, for months and months and months, and to do one-arm push-up is just impressive by you know, regardless of what your lifestyle is. But for mine, me not exercising at all, doing one-arm push-ups, being 6'4", and having these extremely long arms is quite difficult. And the fact that I was doing them from a week after doing this diet was crazy. So anyway, I had to conclude what it is that was going on, and I realized that for the first time, going from a standard diet, cold turkey, into a raw diet again, because I had many different attempts, I was moving through raw veganism within a week, moving through it. Now, when you say moving through it, where do you move to and where are you going? That's what I had to find out, and that's what I did research on. So, essentially, you know, to be very specific, I was moving to a state where I had achieved obtaining the proper nutrients, not just nutrients here, but the proper energies from the foods. My body was graduating from that level to a higher level. So, you know, I realized that the body is capable of many different conditions and surviving many conditions. That's why your body can survive off eating meat. Your body can survive off eating fruit. Your body can survive off of eating paper. You know, it can survive off of doing a lot of things. But what is the purpose of eating this, and where is it taking it? What can you use it to take you to? And raw veganism can be a lifestyle. I'm not interested in raw veganism as a lifestyle. I highly 100% support it, but right now I care more about moving through it into a new lifestyle, what that new thing is, and I'll give you more information on that. But thanks for watching this video. I will post more up. Adios.